Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is the Breakfast Bankroll, your midday market report. Friday, November 12th. How this time is flying. OMG, it'll be Thanksgiving and then Christmas before you know it. It's Friday, absolutely favorite day of the week. Why? Yeah, the weekend's almost here, getting closer. But it's a great day for us at ECSI. It enables us to have our co-host, Andrew McInnis, enables us to go cross the border over to Canada to talk some great insight on Canadian football, some NHL, some NFL, trying to get you ready to get to that window for the weekend. And it's just a great day for us every Friday. So without further ado, my co-host, the one and only Andrew McInnis.
Happy Friday, Jeff. How's it going?
It's going well. How about yourself?
Well, you kind of you hit it right on the head of the nail. I mean, I think that we all kind of have a little more of a pep in our step on Fridays, and I certainly do. You know, I do a lot of shows on Fridays, but you kind of just get that weekend feeling. And all of us that bet on games and handicap games and love sports, it's kind of a 7-day-a-week job. But we all know that weekends, there's a little bit of a different feeling, and you that couch is waiting for me tomorrow to watch some college basketball and some CFL. So, Fridays are always a great day, but it's always a jam-packed day, and I always look forward to jumping on with you. How are things with you? How you been?
Doing great. We were having a great week. We've had a real nice run where we've profited. I think it's now like 5 out of the last 6 weeks, 3 in a row. Had a nice 3-0 night on Wednesday and got stung yesterday in the pucks. I'm wearing my ECSI black and gold jersey in spite. And I'll tell you why, because we had the Bruins last night, minus 136. And I know most of the world was on Edmonton. It was great value. It was plus 120. McDavid coming into the Garden. And I just saw some reverse line movement. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go on the contrarian side here. And you know what? It looked good after 1. It looked good after 2. And we talked last week about this. So I'm going to throw this out to you. You do a lot of pucks. What the hell goes on in these third periods that didn't go on the first 2 periods? I talked about the third period blow-ups. I am telling you right now, Andrew, we're probably 3-7 grading these games after the final bell, but with probably 9-1 going into these third periods. And I'm going to tell you, 75% of them, we've had 2-goal leads, not 1-goal lead, 2-goal leads. What the hell's going on in the third period?
It's a tough question to answer. If I can respond with a rant of my own, what the hell is going on in some of these overtime games? Because I'm sick and tired of overtime and shootouts. That's been my pet peeve. Your pet peeve is third periods. My pet peeve has been shootouts because I don't know who it is. It could be the team I bet on could be going up against a junior B team in a shootout, and my team would lose. Right now, if I go to a shootout, I'm just marking it down as a loss because overtimes and shootouts have been a big pet peeve for me. Third periods, it's weird, you know. With the Oilers, I guess because we know how much scoring power they have, I guess it was just about time for those guys to really turn it on. But it's been very, very weird. It seems like this year, more than any other year, coaches are making more adjustments on the fly, I guess would be one thing I've noticed, where I think you mostly really notice that in sports like basketball. But with hockey, I'm noticing a lot. Like I've always been a big proponent of coaches not changing the lines up too much. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that, especially Edmonton, they obviously have so much talent, but they've really been comfortable just, hey, you know what? We're going to toss Connor and Leon together for a period. Okay, you know what? We'll separate them for a period. So maybe that has something to do with it. The coaches are more willing to change up the lineups. But last night I did have Edmonton, but that was my only real winner on the night. I had a winner in college basketball, which is great to have college hoops back. But I had Florida, and had a loser there against Pittsburgh. I thought Pittsburgh would kind of come back to earth a little bit, and Florida dropped 2 straight. Thought it would be a good bounce back spot for them. Florida was down, tied it up. Game goes to overtime, ends up in a shootout. And like I told you, if it goes to a shootout, I just walk away.
And I'll give you my real other pet peeve is the power play. And it's like kickers have always been a nemesis since day one, 6 years ago. It didn't matter if we needed a 20-yard kick from a college kid, forget it. But if he was against us, he'd nail a 52, 53-yarder with his eyes closed. And it's always been our nemesis. And now in hockey, again, it's the power play. I talked about Wednesday, we went 3-0, and our NHL winner was the Wild puck line, and they cruise. We came back with Minnesota last night playing against Vegas, basically a pick'em game. Get down 2-0, and what really killed me was the end of the second period. They gave up a goal with 7 seconds left to make it 3-0, and then they get 2 late goals, and then that was it. But our nemesis is the power play. Between the Wild and the Bruins last night, 0 for 8 combined on the power play.
Yeah, and I think you and I talked about it together before the year started, that I wish I had the stats on it, but have you noticed there's definitely been more power plays this year? I mean, the NBA is actually sharpening things up and being less soft, and the NHL is getting more soft. I mean, anything to do with a hooking or a slash or a stick check is a penalty now. You hit anybody from behind with your cross check, even if it's a light tap, it's a penalty. And I'll tell you, I always talk about props with you. And, you know, we always say, I know everybody in the sports betting industry makes the same joke, but all the money spends the same, you know? If someone has a total bet, or if you have a receiving yards bet in a game, it all spends the same when you go to dinner afterwards. And I've been looking at power play points, Jeff, is a new one I've been looking at. And most, you know, DraftKings, FanDuel, all those kind of books will offer it. And it's interesting because, you know, let's say you have the Oilers playing, let's say Arizona, and they're like minus 300 something. Chances are they're going to get a power play, and you can get McDavid to get a power play point at like plus 110 or even like minus 120 or somewhere in that range. And realistically, there's only a handful of guys that go out there on the power play. And some teams like the Oilers and the Maple Leafs, they do their most work on the power play. So I've really been trying to find different ways to cash in the NHL, because I have struggled out the gate. It's been a rough start, but the props have really helped me kind of hang in there, you know, like another one that I've been looking at is assists. I think I mentioned that to you last week. I mean, I used to bet players to get a point, but it's pretty incredible. You can go from a player to get a point at like minus 200, get that player to get just an assist, and you get that at plus 110 or plus 100. It's pretty interesting. So some of these guys that are real talented players, maybe not, they don't score much, but they get assists. Just something I've been interested in lately.
And I love what you're saying here, because it's for I'll say the lazy. I'll use the word lazy, the public, the degens. They just wake up, they see the lines, and that's it. Someone you like yourself, someone like myself, we dig so much deeper. Perfect example in the MLB this year. We came out of the gates. We weren't catching any breaks. Our bullpens were blowing up. We're losing extra inning games, and it got real frustrated. It wasn't like we weren't doing the work. Okay. So what we did then was we changed on the flies. We started to see some value and some advantages in the first 5. Hey, I'm not going to throw the minus 200 or 250 on the favorite there, but I can go in the first 5. Don't have to worry about the back end, the bullpen, and I can give up the half run. Hope it's not a tie, and I can get that for minus 130, say.
And get the bullpen out of there.
Exactly.
Screw the bullpens.
So what you're doing in hockey makes so much more sense. Is if, listen, you're losing in the shootouts. I feel your pain there. I know exactly what you're feeling. For me, it's the third periods. I said it last week. I'll say it again. Jesus, I wish we could grade our NHL after 2 periods. We'd be hitting at about 89%, but we can't do that.
And maybe you should start playing some first period money lines. That could help.
Hey, anything could help at this, and I will be looking into that as well. So I'm going to go. We're going to get right up going here. I'm going to bring up your wager talk right now. We talked off the air. We're going to go into some CFL and some NHL and maybe close with some NFL.
Okay.
So I get your board up here. This is today's board, and I'm going to just click over here to make it easier for you. And I'm going to bring up the CFL to start, Andrew, and you can walk us through what you're seeing. 1 second here.
When I make my way to Mass, I'm gonna have to get some ECI apparel off you. I'll support the brand. I'll have to get some off you when I see you in person someday.
That is 100%. Your CFL board for today, rotation number 233, 234, Hamilton at Toronto, opened at 1, now currently -3. You can get it 2.5 at Westgate and 4 at Caesars. So definitely some money coming in on the Tiger Cats. Under-over opened at 45. Looking like 45 in Westgate and South Point, 44 in the hook at our friends at Circa and DraftKings. And then the nightcap, rotation number 235, 236, Calgary at BC. Calgary opened up at 2.5, currently a flat 2, unless you're shopping at DraftKings, and it's -1.5. The stage is yours, sir.
Well, I think it's super interesting. I think you and I were speaking in week 2, and you said to me, you're like, look, I don't even really bet the CFL, but I can just tell by these market moves where I would probably go. And I think it's awesome because you can really look at the way things are going and where the money's coming in. And with the CFL, that's what I used to always want to do is not just base opinions off that, but try and jump at these opening numbers. This year, it started off where we weren't seeing the odds get released as early as they used to. But this week here, Jeff, is very similar to a week you would see in the NFL or even in the MLB late in the season. It's one of those weeks in the CFL where you have to figure out which games matter to which teams, which players will be suiting up. It's one of those type of weeks because the playoffs are coming up. And so for Hamilton and Toronto, this is a huge battle. They're both battling for that top spot in the Eastern Division. And of course, as we all know, the top spot lands a bye. And for everybody out there listening that's not familiar with the CFL, there is one more team in the Western Division. So that means that one team from the West will move to the East for the playoffs, which is super interesting and often quite tough for them because they're playing on a different time zone and, away from home type of thing. But huge game here for Hamilton. And I think that it's not, they always say the old fashioned saying, it's not about how you start, but it's how you finish. And I think that's really been the case for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Jeff, looking at this season. They started the year off as a pretty good defensive team. And lately, looking at their numbers here, they've really picked it up offensively, and their defense kind of has slipped a little bit. But when you take a look at their most recent games, they took care of BC, they took care of Edmonton, they dominated Ottawa. Even though everybody dominates them, I was impressed they only allowed 3 points against. Toronto, here's the thing with them that I'm worried about personally. Their last competitive game was against Montreal, and that was a loss. That was a big game as far as the division goes as well. Their next 2 games were against BC and Ottawa. And that game against Ottawa that was last week turned out to be a really close game. And the thing is even though you beat a team, you and I, our job is to analyze and say, okay, did you beat them in impressive fashion? Did you beat them in the way that you should do it? Because it's not all about straight up. It's about against the spread and that kind of stuff. And I just find that with this Toronto team, their defense was their backbone to start the season off. And right now I find that if their offense is putting their defense out there far too much and they get, 2 and outs, the defense is getting fatigued and they're starting to allow points. And right now with the amount of points Hamilton's putting up, they pretty much spent all season trying to get healthy, and now they're back at full health. I feel like Hamilton, albeit they're on the road in Toronto, sometimes it's almost like a home game for them. We were joking yesterday talking about sometimes games, in the NHL, we see Arizona when they played the Minnesota Wild. There were lots of Wild fans. There were like "Let's go Wild" chants in the stands. There's going to be, probably half the fans at tonight's game will be repping the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and I feel like they will get the win tonight. I think they'll cover as well. Hamilton is getting my money. Calgary, BC is an interesting game because BC is just trying to leave this season with some pride. I'm going to look towards an under in that game. BC's had a horrible defense, but most importantly, their offense fell off. Mike Riley is still a great quarterback, but he's taken so much damage. And you can really tell, you see it all the time in the NFL with certain quarterbacks. You can make a highlight tape, Jeff, of some of the damage that he's taken this year, the amount of sacks that he's taken. His offensive line has let him down big time. I mean, you look at what they did in I should say, Tampa Bay for Tom Brady. What did they do? They went out and they drafted an offensive lineman. They went out, hit the waivers and in the offseason free agency. They made sure they protected him. And with Michael Riley being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, he doesn't have any protection. And with a league that only has 3 downs, you need to have protection. So I'm not really sure I'm buying into Calgary's offense, having an explosion either. So I feel like that might be a low-scoring game. But I'll give all of you guys my best bet here for the weekend. And that's Montreal getting points at home. It is absolutely a rat race right now in the Eastern Division between Toronto, Hamilton, and Montreal. Winnipeg is clearly the best team in the CFL, not even close, by miles. And I'd be shocked if they didn't win the Grey Cup this year. But they've made it very clear, Jeff, that they're sitting pretty much everybody. And that number at one point was 8.5 for Winnipeg. And, sometimes you might look at a spot like this and say, you have to make sure you're betting the number, not the teams and the situation. But it's a lot of guys sitting out. Montreal still has talent. They've been putting up some numbers offensively. And this is just one of those ones where, we say this with respect, but to your point, the casual fans are going to walk up to their guy on the corner or go to their sports book, excuse me, and they're going to say, you know what? Winnipeg's a way better team, -6.5 all day. And they're not going to realize that the MVP of the league's not there. The best running back in the league is sitting out. Several players aren't going to be in that game. And I can tell you what, every single player that means business for Montreal will be in that lineup. So I think it sets up for a pretty good spot. We're getting points with a team that's at full health, and they should get the job done. So I really like Montreal getting points for us at home. Home field will be a huge advantage for them as well.
All right, you heard it there from the CFL guru himself, Andrew. You can follow him at McInnis Picks and also at Wager Talk. DMs always open, and he does answer back. So follow him if you're not following him. Right at the bottom of the page here, you got a whole bunch of spots where you can follow him. Great work. And he's just a beast when it comes to this stuff. So now we're going to go to the frozen pond, my brother.
Let's do it.
Let's move it up for you. All this basketball, holy moly. Christmas and let me see here. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games on the slate. Washington at Columbus, Edmonton at Buffalo, Calgary at Toronto, Philly at Carolina, Arizona at Chicago. Actually, let me go to money lines here for you. There you go. Anything jump off the page here today, Andrew?
One play I really like, Jeff, is Washington. You look at the Wager Talk odds screen there, -125, 130. There's different odds depending on where you look. Washington's on a back-to-back, and we're a little bit deeper into the season now, but it's still early. A lot of these players still saying the back-to-backs only affect you later in the year. Washington, dating back to last year, 8-2 their last 10 games, back-to-back situation. Columbus hasn't played a game in 6 days. They've had 5 days rest. So they're without Line A, they're without Domi. They're without several forwards, and not just scoring forwards, but defensive forwards as well. And this is a situation for me where I'm looking at rust, not rest. Sometimes I think that a 3-game rest would be good, or a 3-day rest, but it might be a little bit too much. And the reason why there's so much rest right now for them is because they were supposed to play a series against Colorado over in Europe. And I believe, don't quote me on it, but I believe due to COVID that was postponed. I'm not 100% sure, but so that's why they had so many days off. And I think it'll be a rust, not rest type of situation. And I'm curious your thoughts here, because I've seen some conflicting opinions, but I've cashed some underdog wagers on Columbus this year. I think they're a decent team, but Washington last night, their goaltender Zachary Fucale, he actually played here in Halifax. He's grinded big time. Got his first win in the NHL debut. He had a shutout, first in franchise history to do that as a rookie, but he faced 23 shots, Jeff, right? So it sounds like to me that Washington didn't really have to put that much of an effort defensively. They just had a real good game last night. So I think it's a big game here tonight for the Caps, despite the back-to-back.
Washington's been good to us this year. So I like where your eyes are here. Just bringing up Don Best here. Pinnacle opened it up at 138, now down to 130, showing 88% of the wagers so far coming in on Columbus. So ticket count and money, it's moving in the right direction. Currently a 5.5 on the under over. So they're basically telling you 3-2. Is there an empty net to be found? I like where your eyes are here. I'm probably as superstitious as anyone, and I know this. When I go against the Capitals, it's Oshie one time. It's oh my God.
That's like me with the Penguins, Jeff. The Penguins are my team that I should probably just never go against because if I went against them every game of the year, they'd go 82-0. That's everybody has that team they can't bet against. That's my team. I've got a good friend of mine. His is the Dallas Stars. Any night he goes against the Stars, it's just they beat him.
Yeah, and it's just like if I'm not watching the game, I'm following the games on the phone or streaming whatever. But every time I look up, it's Oshie, it's Ovechkin, it's Oshie, and I'm just like, what? It's a perfect example. Why do that to yourself? It's like in college basketball, it's Butler. Whenever I'm on Butler, they lose by 20. Whenever I go against them, it's the Brad Stevens Butler team that wins by 20. So some of those teams, I can't play them. I can't play them.
Yeah, it's just, and maybe it's just us, the way that we're picking spots. But what are your thoughts tonight on the NHL slate? Is there anything that you really like? What about Calgary, Toronto? Calgary had a really good road trip to start the year off. And knock, knock, who's there? The Habs finally get a win for me last night. They beat the Flames.
After down 2-0, right?
Yeah. And the Flames, the Leafs actually had their best defensive performance they've had all year in Philadelphia against the Flyers. Can we sit, as much as I love to have fun and heckle Leaf fans, we got to give them credit. They're playing better defensively this year.
I hate to beat a dead, whatever you want to call it here. Am I thinking too hard on this? I mean, would you think about a swing on the Blackhawks puck line, or am I getting too cute here?
No, I'm with you. Chicago is a team that I think some teams eventually are going to take Arizona lightly, and maybe the puck line won't be the best bet to take down the road, but Chicago's clearly a bye team. I mean, they had such a horrible start to their season, lots of stuff going on in the background that was horrible. But let's be honest, they do have lots of talent on their team. And one thing interesting about this Arizona team, games that they lose, I think it's been 2 or 3 on the season that have only been by 1. So when they lose, they're losing by more than 1 goal.
And I'm obviously not going to go into the 220, 223.
Yeah.
You know what gets me a little nervous, though, is the fact that, Pinnacle opened the number at 170. It looks like there was probably a correction. This thing wasn't steamed to 220. It reminded me last night of the Dolphins and Ravens game. That line opened at 6.5.
Yes.
And no one on social media, no one's talking about the Dolphins. It's all Ravens. It went to 7, 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9 at kickoff.
Such a Lamar Jackson game, eh? That's a very typical Lamar Jackson game.
It is. So all right. So let's close here, Andrew. Let's take a peek into the NFL. Let's see if you and I see anything on the same page. I can tell you what, right down the road, I think one of the games of the week is Cleveland at the Patriots. Cleveland opened up, Pats opened up 2 and a hook. And I think right now they're at a flat 2. Now they're around 2.5. You can get them 2 at WinBet, -1 at Bet Online. The real story in this game is both teams are 5-4. The winner here walks away 6-4, owns obviously the tiebreaker against that team, and is really setting themselves up for a playoff run.
So you like your guys at home?
If you want my honest truth, you're supposed to, based upon the numbers, you're supposed to play the Browns this week. But with that said, I'm going to say Felton's out. I don't think Chubb's going to be playing either. They'll have Dearness Johnson in the backfield. What's the Patriots have been doing of late is their defense has been getting stronger. Last week, Mac didn't have to throw the ball. They knew they could run the ball and they could just play defense because Carolina wasn't going to move the ball. I think you're going to get a bigger you're going to see a lot better Mac this week. He's going to throw the ball a lot more. They finally got the monkey off their back and won a home game against the Jets. They put up a 50-burger last game. So I guess.
What about the under?
The under was, make it the total here. Was it 45? Yeah, so they're telling you 24-21. Okay. I don't think Cleveland's going to get over 21.
No.
And I think that's a good spot on New England. We're going to get, as we speak, we're getting another one of these crazy storms. We're going to get 1.5 inches of rain, 40, 50 mile an hour winds. But Saturday's supposed to be nice. So I like where your eyes are here. It opened at 44.5, now 45. Again,
I can see it being a run-heavy game.
Oh, absolutely. Both teams.
Yeah.
Both teams.
Yeah.
What are you seeing out here?
Well, I know that we're talking sides and stuff like that, but if it's all right with you, I have a prop that I wanted to mention. If that's cool. There's a guy that I just can't ignore anymore. I don't think anybody should, and I'm not someone that loves these trends. I don't like to just strictly find somebody and just continuously look at them every week. But Cordero Patterson, he's somebody that I think everybody should be looking at right now. With Calvin Ridley being out for personal reasons with the Atlanta Falcons, I'm looking at him over 43.5 receiving yards. This is a guy that it's actually unbelievable. Leads the team in receptions and rushing yards. How is that even possible? That just goes to show he's out in the backfield, but he's also, and it's the yards after catch that's the biggest stat for this guy. I mean, he catches a 6-yard pass and turns it into a 15-yarder consistently. And 43.5 here, I think it's pretty interesting. Through over his past 3 to 4 weeks, he's getting at least 5 or 6 targets. He's caught at least 4 passes over the past 3 weeks. He's someone I'm looking at. And on that note, I think Atlanta covers against Dallas. Dallas has been a covering machine. In Jerry's world, we know how talented they are, or I shouldn't even say that. We just know that they get the job done. But I feel like the numbers are starting to get a little carried away. And I do think Atlanta hangs around. And I haven't really taken Atlanta that much at all this year. They've been a big prop team for me, looking at guys like Cordero and looking at different guys in their team. But I think Atlanta can hang around in this one and stick around with them. Another one I really do like, and I'm curious your thoughts on this one. I think the Vikings can keep that game close. I think the Vikings can stick around And I've seen several different opinions on both sides in this one. So I'm curious your opinion because it's going to be a big one. The Chargers are a talented team, but I'm taking the field goal.
Well, it's funny you bring them up because we were on the Vikings money line last week, plus 260. Twice had 2 touchdown leads, and the Vikings did what they do best: is find a way to lose late and then stick the dagger in your heart and lose in overtime.
Well, I think every game but one game this season has been decided by one possession.
Correct. And you bring up, this is a hell of a game because if you reach out to John Murray and Jeff Sherman out at the Westgate, and especially John, he always talks about his sharp contingency up there. And what they do religiously is they bet the Chargers on the road and they bet against them at home. And you look at this game here, you got a Chargers team 4-3 and a Minnesota Viking team 3-5. And when I'm looking at this line right here, the computer model says 3. The opening line was 2.5. It's got pushed to 3 with a total of 53. So they got you in that 28-24 zone, somewhere like that. I like where your head is. On my NFL bet exchange that I did yesterday in LA, my theme this week is the sense of urgency for the 3-5 teams. Okay. And or 3-6. You got the Eagles 3-6 at Denver. You got Seattle 3-5 at Green Bay with Russ and potentially Carson coming back. You got the Vikings 3-5 at the Chargers. And I thought there was one more. Nope. Monday night. And here's the funny one, okay? You got the Rams at the 49ers. Rams opened up at 3, now 4. This 49er team has not won a home game in 18 months, okay? And now they got embarrassed by the Titans with no Henry last Sunday. Everyone remembers what they saw last. In comes the Rams. You talk about trends. I'm not a big trend guy either, but I think the Niners are 6-0 straight up their last 6 against the Rams. And there's absolutely zero reason to take the 49ers this week. I think they cover, if not win outright. So keep an eye on those 3-5 teams and that sense of urgency.
I like it. And it's kind of what I was talking about with the CFL. There's certain situations in certain weeks. And looking at these 3-5 teams, you don't want to slip to 3-6. And all of a sudden you start to look a little bit different in the standings. So it's a big week for some of those teams. And it's pretty incredible. I'm a huge person that looks at the home and away splits. And some teams and some sports, it matters more than others. And clearly for that San Fran team, if you want to see your team win, you better be going to a road game.
100%. Andrew, closing. The stage is yours. I tell everyone again, follow you at McInnis Picks, at Wager Talk, at Sports Mayflower. Go over to YouTube. Jump on that Mayflower Sports YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, the like, retweet, tell your friends. I got your promo code right there. The stage is yours.
I appreciate it. It's always a great time to jump on with you. Nice way to close out the week. AM49 is the promo code for this week. It's $49 for a 3-day pass. As I always preach, same way they preach at ECI. It's an investment. You know, it is an absolute investment. It is not just a one-time thing. That's why I love the name East Coast Sports Investors, because we are not just looking to make it and get rich in one day. We are trying to preach the marathon, not a sprint mindset. And this is only a 3-day, but it's better than just buying one pick or one package. So AM49, my initials, 49 gets you 3 days for $49. You got an interesting UFC card tomorrow. Best bets have been real good in the UFC. Last weekend was an unbelievable card. I didn't have a play on the main event or the co-main. It was earlier in the prelims. Got the job done. CFL, hey, you guys heard a lot of my plays for the CFL. I gave you the CFL. NFL, we got some college hoops. 2-0 starting off college hoops year. So going to be a great weekend. Looking forward to it, and hopefully keep this thing going. But as far as Mayflower Sports, I appreciate you for mentioning that. It means a lot to me. We're dropping different videos every single Friday. So that's why I really do appreciate you mentioning it. All of you guys out there that do follow me, be a huge favor for me. Give us a follow on our Twitter at Sports Mayflower. And we got a new YouTube video dropping today. It was kind of funny, Jeff. As a Habs fan, we had a TikToker on, a guy from TikTok. He's got 136,000 followers, and he's a Toronto Maple Leafs TikToker. Real great guy from Northern Ontario. We were chatting with him about the brand that he's built. And next week, we actually have a handicapper on breaking down all kinds of college basketball conferences. So we're going to start doing some in-person interviews next week. Got a camera and some new microphone equipment for some local Canadian university players and stuff like that. But yeah, it's nice that separating some of the stuff I do in my handicapping work and then kind of doing a little bit of interviews and stuff in my personal life.
Multitasking and multi-talented, my friend.
Hey, I appreciate it. And hey, I would love to be able to run something like you're running right now. So I'm just happy to be on the show with you each Friday and wish you guys the best. Sounds like you're staying hot right now. So hopefully you can keep that going into the weekend.
That's what we're hoping. Keep the money train moving, especially.
Knock on wood.
Yes, there you go. Especially as we get closer to the holiday season. We like to say we always love to fill up those stockings and decorate the trees for the clients. So that's our goal. So been a pleasure as always. Like I said, Friday's my favorite day. I love this. Know that you're busy, that you're swamped. So from myself, Jeff Dawson, and Andrew McInnis, we wish you the best of luck this week and weekend. Always remember this when wagering. Always wager with your head, not your heart. If you have a problem, pick up that phone. There's an 800 number there. Reach out, ask for help. Why? Because we care. Stay in your lane, cash some tickets, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.